So at a broad conceptual level, there's nothing more pressing for Joe Biden as president than to rethink how to work on the US-China partnership and also competition, and how to explain that to the American people. So my own view is we need to be very clear about certain core interests, such as access to the South China Sea and defense of our key allies, and the non-use of force to settle disputes. But we also need to expect a long-term competition of different economic and political models. And in a good case, the two countries can actually push each other to do better, because competition can be a good thing. And it can force each side to essentially try to show why its own model may be better. As long as that happens in a context of transparency and stability and peace, I think we'll be okay. So the US-China relationship is more complex than it's been in probably 40 or 45 years, but it doesn't have to be bad. It's just going to be more complicated. And I think it'll be more complicated for all of our lives and our children's lives. But if we're fortunate, the United States and China will wind up achieving cooperative ventures where they can actually work together and minimize those areas of disagreement. Let's say, for example, over Taiwan, where we just have to make sure that we don't use force, that no one uses force, that the issue is addressed in non-military ways. And if we can find a way to move forward on that basis, I think we'll be okay.
Okay. Dawei, I want you to respond to what Michael just said. The U.S. core interest is access to the South China Sea and the peaceful settlement of disputes. I think he refers to the Taiwan issue.
Yeah, I think I don't know if all the American colleagues use that term as my friend Michael used, the core interest, because this is usually being viewed as a Chinese term. But yes, some of my American friends use that word, and some of them say vital interest. No matter what term you use, I think access to the high sea and access to for instance, to a market, and I think this is one of the vital or core interests of the U.S. And actually, I don't think we have a conflict over the general principle of that. But the problem, the devil is in the detail. I think because where, for instance, in South China Sea, can the U.S. have the access, and where the U.S. cannot, we have China and the U.S. have different views. And so I think our conflict is not over those principles, but our conflict is over the details. But this means our conflict is not a principal conflict. I think our principal differences. This is something we can negotiate. This is something we can talk. China does not oppose the U.S. or any country's legal right to enter a high sea. Of course, China have that right too.
But Michael, in his speech or in his answer to the press, Foreign Minister Wang Yi resolutely affirmed the position that Taiwan is part of China. This is the bottom line. America should be very clear about this. We do not rule out the possibility of reuniting Taiwan with force if necessary. So this hasn't changed at all for the past few decades. Why Americans are concerned about whether it can still be a challenge?
Well, you're asking us tonight to address the relationship from first principles and to talk about the Biden administration and how it's going to think about China. And so what I'm trying to do is, from an American strategist point of view, to express my worst case worries and how we have to avoid seeing those come to being. So that's why I bring up Taiwan, and that's why I bring up the South China Sea, because I don't see a whole lot of other issues where the United States and China would actually come up to the brink of conflict with each other. But those two, we have to work very hard to manage. And I understand that Taiwan, in some sense, is Chinese. If we think historically, if we think culturally, if we think in terms of human relationships, I hope that there can someday be a concept that Taiwan and China figure out together that may not be exactly reunification, but it also may be some kind of broader affiliation or commonwealth. I don't know. It's not my job to figure that out, and Chinese don't want Americans to figure that out for you. So again, I think that as an American, I need to understand that people in Taiwan and China want to figure this out on their own. And that's the way it should be. Mm-hmm. The only American interest is that a longstanding friend in Taiwan have some role in that conversation and not be militarily pressured